Hello everyone, this is China Paradigm, where we, Dashi Consulting, interview seasoned entrepreneurs in China.
Hello everyone, I'm Matthieu David, the founder of Vericel Consulting and this podcast, China Paradigm. Today I am with Simon Vericel. You are the founder of Influence Matters, and you've been in China for 17 years, since 2002.
Since 2002, yes. I arrived in Shanghai in 2002 and I've been in Beijing since 2004.
You founded Influence Matters in 2015, so 4 years and a half ago now. But you have been at the start of many other initiatives in the PR industry, in the advertisement industry in Beijing. You are based in Beijing. So Influence Matters, and you are going to tell us more and certainly be more precise on what I say right now. You are focusing on PR and tech PR, and even more specifically B2B tech PR, as far as I understand. And that's one thing I'd like to define more precisely with you. In terms of content, what is public relations, what is PR, what is not PR. I feel that you are activating some campaign on social media. You are also very active offline in events, which is something I understand it's PR, but social media, for instance, for me, it's not clear if it's PR or if it's online marketing. So I'd like to understand better where what services you provide to your clients. So to name a few of your clients, Origins Technology, Entrance, VC, Air Visual, Fiber, Day Up. Some are mobile marketing and service app. Some are consumer tech. Some are blockchain companies like Paxos, like CryptoKitties. So it's difficult to pronounce sometimes. Hopefully, I hope that I pronounced correctly all the names. Enterprise software like CAS Software, Terac, and even automotive industries. So we see that you are very tech oriented. B2B, I feel so as well, and you are going to tell us more about it. So thank you very much, Simon, for being with us so early. It's 8 a.m. in China.
I have 3 children. They get up very early, so 8 a.m. is not
early. Good. What about the size of the company and the story of the company? Could you tell us more?
Okay, so it's actually even more precise than being PR for B2B tech companies. Influence Matters is a B2B tech focused PR agency that specializes in startups and SMBs. So most of our clients are startups and SMBs, scale-ups too. All of them are foreign companies that we help in China. Being a PR agency differs from other types of communication in the fact that we're going to be using third parties for communication. So we're a strategic PR agency, which means that we start with the strategy, the communication strategy for our clients. They usually have a global communication strategy, or they do not have a communication strategy for those that are small, and we're going to define the communication strategy for China. Once we have that strategy, we're going to define the messages, the communication messages for China. Then the stories, we're going to put together content that could be press releases, that can be articles, that can be interview material, social media material, and then we're going to disseminate that content on various channels. Those channels are primarily the media, so traditional media, knowing that traditional media in China is very much online, but also social media. I can explain a bit more about what we do on social media for our clients in a second. And then events, where we support our clients around events, and sometimes we're going to help them put together events. Now, I said before that we use third parties. Those third parties are going to be influencers. The influencers are the media. They're definitely influencers. Social media influencers, which are third-party influencers that have a following that's in line with our clients. And events are going to be third-party platforms, which means we do not communicate directly with the customers of our clients. We go through one of these third parties, and that is the difference in between PR and marketing or advertising, for example.
I see.
PR is going to go through a third party. Marketing is direct communication to your customer. Advertising is even more direct communication to your customer. And talking about social media, for example, if we work with social media campaigns for our clients, most of the time, because our clients are smaller, they don't do big campaigns on social media. So we're going to help them build their presence on Chinese social media. So we're going to help them register and set up their WeChat account, their Weibo account, their Toutiao account. Usually the main platforms. We don't go into secondary platforms too much, like Douyin, for example. And we're going to build their presence and first layer of communication to their followers on these platforms. Once we have a bit of a following, we're going to work with influencers who are going to promote their social media content, their social media accounts to gain more followers in their target industries. And to go back to the B2B tech, yes, we only do B2B tech. We do not do B2C, which means we don't work with game launchers, for example. We don't do consumer tech product launchers, but we work with companies that target industrial or industry companies in China. So you mentioned blockchain. When we work with blockchain, our blockchain clients are service providers in blockchain to other industries, e-commerce industry, for example. When we work in gaming, our clients do services to game developers. So advertising technology, programmatic advertising platforms, for example, would be our clients. Games outsourcing companies would be our clients because their target are going to be the game developers. Same for industry, where we're going to be working on semiconductor, for example, or on industrial smart manufacturing tools, where the target industry is going to be the tech industry for semiconductor, actually any industry for semiconductor, or manufacturing industry for smart manufacturing tools.
I see. Could you tell us more about your size now? I have some numbers on a document you sent to us, but I like to know from you.
Yeah. We just celebrated 4 years last month, and in the past 4 years, we've grown to 16 people. So we just opened an office in Shanghai last month. The celebration was opening a new office, which was a different type of celebration. We have 4 people in Shanghai, and 12 in Beijing right now. And we have pretty ambitious growth plans because we look to be 35 to 40 people by the end of 2020, which has been the goal since pretty much we started. And we're well on track to do that. So we're growing. We're more than doubling the size of the team of the company every year.
I see. Isn't it from an entrepreneur point of view, isn't it difficult to grow the size of the team based on the fact that I believe most of PR work is on a project base and not a retainer base, like every month getting some services?
Most of our business is on retainer.
Okay.
So we have retainer clients. We work on 6 months to 1 year to sometimes more retainer programs with our clients. We currently have, I think we're on 10 active clients, and 9 of those are retainers. So we just have one project, which is actually a 3 months project that should turn into a retainer after that. We build on the retainers, and we make the bonus money on the projects.
I see. So if I am a company, I want to advertise in China or to get some PR campaign in China, how would you approach my topic? What question would you ask me? How would you what should I bring to you in order to start working with you and gain visibility in China?
So we have a very business goal-centric approach to PR, which is a bit different from a lot of the other companies here. Because we work mostly with smaller companies, we get to be connected to the business goals of our clients. And we're going to spend a lot of time to understand and dissect what the different business goals of our clients are going to be in China. And there might be a lot of different goals, depending on the size of the company. Some might come to China for the first time and be looking for an investor or partner that's going to help them open the Chinese market. Some are a stage further and are looking for their second or third or fourth employees and need to recruit, and their business goal is going to be recruitment. Of course, a lot of our clients are going to be developing their business in China, so we're going to support that business goal, that is that their business grows. So we're going to spend a lot of time to really understand what they are trying to achieve as a business in China, so we can connect our communication strategy, our messaging, and the channels and people we're going to talk to for them based on that business goal.
Okay. Could you tell us more about a couple of cases you have worked on, specific to can illustrate this and can illustrate actually the event, online part, and so on, and how it's articulating?
I'll give you one rather clear example that we're working on right now that is right in the middle of what we usually do. It's a startup that's just celebrating 1 year now, a Hong Kong Chinese company that does software bug detection tools. So you see, it's very B2B. They're built by 4 founders that are extremely experienced in compilers, for those who know what a compiler is. So it's basically software development tools. And they've built a new way to detect bugs in software, in the development phase of software. Their clients in China are going to be any company that develops software. So those could be car companies, it could be banks, it could be government offices, but it could also be game developers or software developers. They're launching their product a bit later this year. And right now, they're starting to build their awareness in the market in China. So they're trying to reach those companies and CTOs in the company, so people who are in charge of the development of software, to have them know about this new product that's launching and the company that's launching. To do that, we've just spent the first month. We just finished the first months of the engagement with them. It's a 6 months engagement for now, 6 months retainer, where we spend that first month building all of the fundamentals of their communications in China. The fundamentals are going to be, first, we've put together the company introduction, the product introduction, the biographies of the founders, all the material that we're going to need to do that first layer of communication. And we build that into a press kit, which is material that we're going to be sending to the press whenever we need to work with the press. At the same time, we've also built their social media channel. So we've built a WeChat for them, which we're launching next week, I think, or by the end of this week even, where we've built their Baidu Baike presence, which is a very important platform, especially in software and companies in software. And we've also built a communication calendar for the next couple months, where we know when we're going to do a public relations communication, so either an announcement, which would be a press release or a press event, to connect our client with the key media, or when we're going to be doing some byline or case study articles, which we're going to be developing for them, and then publishing or placing in the press for them, in specialized press that they're targeting. For example, there is press that is specialized in software for banking in China, which we will target for them. And then we've also built a calendar of events over the next 6 months that would be interesting for them to attend in one capacity or another, either as an exhibitor, either as a sponsor, or just as an attendee, because it is going to support their lead generation. These events. And then we support, over the next 5 months now, we're going to support in developing the content, running the media relations to get some awareness in the specialized press for them, running their social media accounts so we can grow a solid base of potential customers that follow their social media accounts, and getting them to the right events with the right approach at these events. So their lead generation efforts are easier.
I see. So in those cases, you have to build as well the presence in China to be seen and to be reachable, like the WeChat account, and I believe to have also maybe even a website, or at least an account where they can be ranked on Baidu. Maybe you do that through Baidu Baike. By the way, Baidu Baike, for people who are listening to us, is equivalent of Wikipedia in China, but made by Baidu and very well ranked by Baidu.
Correct. Now, if we look at, you've mentioned websites, we have a network of partners for things that are not directly related to PR, that support us support our clients when they need. So we've got a web dev partner that also does the SEO. So if a client needs a website in Chinese or localizing their website, then we have a partner, and that partner can also do the SEO at the same time. It's the same if we need video content, graphic design. Then we have partners that do that. We, as a PR agency, are going to really work on the message and written content, which is really press releases, articles, the content that is written. Anything that is designed will work with a partner.
I see. Why did you decide to focus on B2B tech? From the very start, I feel it was very clear for you to start to to focus on B2B tech. It's a bit contrarian for me because we see so much press, so much hype in consumer tech. CES is consumer tech, the Xiaomi, Oppo, and so on. And Chinese are good at that actually. And there are plenty of companies in consumer tech.
So first, I'm a geek, and that's the main reason why I went into technology. I've always been passionate about innovation, about innovators, and about technology generally. And the innovators are mostly in B2B tech. Innovators, people who invent chips or who invent chip designs or applications. They don't necessarily think of consumer applications when they develop, because consumer applications come much later. If you look at your phone, I've got a OnePlus here, Chinese brand, very, very good. But all the technology that's in that phone was invented 5, 6, 10 years ago. The technology that's being invented today is going to be in mobile phones in 5, 6, 10 years from now. So that's the main reason why I got into technology, is because I'm a geek. Then you mentioned Consumer Electronics Show. In China, Consumer Electronics Show, you know where it happens. I don't know if you've probably been there already.
CES. So yeah, for people who are listening to us, CES is a very big show. It's originally from the US. I don't remember where it is in the US.
Well, it's very big in the US, but imagine that CES in China takes, I think it's 3 or 4 halls of that exhibition center in Shanghai that counts 17 halls altogether. You go to, every March is Semicon China, which is the biggest semiconductor show in China and in Asia, actually. And it takes, this year, it took all 17 halls plus 10 temporary halls that were built in the middle. So the largest B2B tech show in China is about 10 times bigger than the largest consumer electronics show in China. Consumer electronics to me are not that interesting because it's already finished products that the innovation happened a long time ago. Whereas when we're working on some of our clients that are reinventing the way factories are going to be working, for example, we're applying artificial intelligence to e-commerce or marketing, actually, because we have one client that is doing data consulting and digital marketing for companies, and they're a communication agency, but they use data, which is technology, and they use artificial intelligence, which is technology, which is why we're working for them and helping their clients understand why digital marketing should focus on technology before you get to an actual campaign. So it's to me, it's a lot more interesting to work on what's inside, what's making technology work, rather than a finished product. And it's a massive China. Going back to semiconductor, one of the good examples I like to say is that China consumes about 90 or 70% of the semiconductors manufactured around the world, but it only builds 10%. So that means that those 90% of semiconductors that they don't produce and that they need in China, they import from other markets. They import from Korea, they import from Japan, they import from the US, they import from Europe. So when our positioning as a B2B tech-focused agency in China is just where we should be, because there's a huge market in China for that, and a lot less competition than in B2C communications.
Exactly, yeah. I thought about the competition B2B, but I didn't realize how big actually the events as well and the press can be in this industry. Could you name a few of events where you have to be when you're in B2B tech industry? So
in B2B, the events are very specialized. So you don't. There's a bunch of events where you have to be. If you're in semiconductor, or if you're in industry, application, manufacturing, robotics, for example, you'll go to Semicon China, which happens mid-March every year. Not quite sure what else I can actually think of. The others are I don't even know the name because they have acronyms that are just a couple letters. But there was a show. There's a show in September, for example, every year in Beijing that is about wind energy. So it's a wind energy show, and all the companies that are in wind power, and that anything from turbines to cables in wind power to connectors, they're going to have to go to that show. Then you've got a couple shows that focus on automotive technology too. So you hear about the Shanghai or the Beijing Auto Show. And by the way, I don't know if you've been to the Shanghai Auto Show. I was there this year because we had a client on it. There's a whole section of the show that is B2B, that is everything about the cables that are going to go in the show, the seats, the heating system for the seats, those are the shows that these companies are going to be at. One of our clients that does industrial connectors, a German company that does industrial connectors for robotics, manufacturing industry, wind, railway industry too. They go to a show every month because every month they have one show that is specialized in one of the industries that they focus on.
You mentioned semiconductors as one segment. Would you mind mentioning verticals that you feel that foreign companies can have a huge untapped market in China? You mentioned as well factory. I don't know now if we talk about factory 3.0 or 4.0. I don't know which number it is. But could you mention a couple of? Say again?
We just say smart manufacturing. I think we've lost count of how many point zeros there are now.
So which verticals do you feel can have a momentum in China? I mean, the foreign companies basically, within which verticals can have a momentum in China?
So most verticals in China will be, especially in semiconductor, are going to be interesting for foreign companies because innovation on a lot of future technologies are going to is happening in China. If we look at mobility, for example, whether it's electric vehicles or it's rail technology, because China is still inventing the fastest trains right now, and you've got lots of chips that go in there. Then you're going to have mobile communications, mobile phones. They still use a lot of foreign technology in it. We have one client who's a French semiconductor company, and they're in 100% of the mobile phones around the world. Nobody knows them, nobody knows the name of the company, but they do the base of the semiconductor material on which, I don't know, 20 or 30 chips in your phone have been built on. And with 5G, this is going to grow to 50 or 60 chips. They've actually calculated the millimeter area that they have in phones. So 5G, that gets me to it, definitely is an area that will have a lot of opportunity for foreign companies in chips or radios or any other type of technology for 5G, because China is going to be one of the first markets, if not the first large market, to roll out a nationwide network for 5G, which means it's going to be the first market to develop applications for 5G. And applications for 5G, mostly Internet of Things right now, connected everything, need a lot of chips and need a lot of technology, need a lot of algorithm, and are going to develop artificial intelligence or machine learning applications very fast. So China is going to be leading the world in development of any application that is built on 5G in the next 10 years.
I know you're very involved in French Tech. The French Tech is an association representing French technology all over the world. There is a chapter in Beijing, as well as there is a chapter in Shanghai. I believe there is a chapter in New York and Silicon Valley and everywhere in the world. Could you tell us more specifically then what you do with the French Tech in China and what you see from France, which can have a leverage in China?
So, right, I am the founder of the Beijing chapter of the French Tech, which we founded a bit under 4 years ago. There is a chapter in Shanghai that is a little bit older than the Beijing one. And as you mentioned, there's chapters all around the world. Our goal is to support French innovation globally, promote French innovation in our home market, and create a community of French entrepreneurs in technology with local entrepreneurs in technology. So we've created a community of about 400 people in Beijing, for example. It's a bit bigger in Shanghai, and we work a lot with the French government at the same time, because we are supported by the French government, sometimes funded by the French government, to create a connection in between France and our home market. So let's say China for us. In the past couple of years, we've worked really hard to create connections in various technologies, but mostly last year and this year in artificial intelligence, actually. Because there are big similarities in the expertise or needed for artificial intelligence, and more generally what we call deep tech, which is everything that's based on an algorithm, in between China and France. Chinese universities output some very good engineers, software engineers, that are very good at designing new algorithms that are used in artificial intelligence. The French university system is very good for that too. We have some of the best software engineers or engineering schools in the world. The head of artificial intelligence in a lot of the big American companies, European companies are actually French. The head of AI at Facebook, at Spotify, at Twitter, Apple, they're all French. They've come out of France, and a lot of the teams are also Chinese. So we look at creating some connections between innovators in China and innovators in France. So hopefully some sparkles are going to happen, and you're going to have some projects, some cooperations, either at the government level, at the individual level, at the company level, in between the two countries. So both benefit from each other's expertise and build stronger business relations and ties. It's been rather successful so far because we understand each other pretty well in between France and China. We're also in a position in the past 2 years or so that puts Europe as a whole in an interesting position in China. Not to mention the trade war with the US, which is blocking a lot of American companies from having an open door in China. France and Europe more generally have a much more open door here. So there's a lot of opportunities for French companies to leverage the Chinese market through our core technologies. We, as the French tech, identify where these opportunities are and put the people together.
I see. I feel the French tech is much more giving visibility. It's much more about giving visibility to French technology and labelizing a little bit some companies more than actually an organization with like we are used like Business France and so on. It's more like giving visibility, right?
So the French tech is a community more than an organization.
I see.
So still with a president, a vice president, because we have to under the helm of the French government body that oversees the French tech. So we got recognized recently as one of the communities in the world. But we're not organized as an association or as a proper government organization. We're just a group of people that have a love for innovation, for technology, and for France, and for China at the same time, and creating connections in between the two. So our main goal is, is completely disinterested from any profit, if you want. We do it really for the love of France and for really wanting France to stand out, because it has the tools to stand out. It has the technology and the skills to stand out. It's just very bad at communicating. France is notoriously bad at communicating on its strengths. And I think the government realizes that, and giving the keys to a community of entrepreneurs to actually do that was a very clever thing to do, because we're working 120% on our companies already. Then we've got another 50% that's on our families, and then we still find another 20% to work on the French tech, because why not? So it's working for this. We're promoting France, and we're promoting France-China relations. If we put it in technology, but if we put it in a very broad way, that's what we do.
We talked about foreign companies going to China. We talked about the French tech. So again, foreign companies being in China or being overseas. Would you mind talking a bit more about a topic that has been in a bit hype over the last years, Chinese companies going global? I know you have been working specifically on this segment in a company called Hill plus Knowlton, if I pronounce it correctly.
Yes, Hill and Knowlton. Actually, it was called Hill and Knowlton when I was rebranded to Hill plus Knowlton Strategies a bit after I left.
I see.
At the time, it was actually my first company, and I started there after I graduated in 2005. And my first job there was working for the Beijing Olympics. So it was the agency that was doing the international communications, international media relations for the 2008 Beijing Olympics. And doing that, we started working for some of the sponsors of the Beijing Olympics, and some of those sponsors, many of the sponsors were Chinese companies, including Haier and Qingdao Beer, for example. Right before the Olympics started, or a bit before the Olympics started, some of these sponsors, Chinese companies, asked us to support them in doing international communications for them. So I kind of left the Beijing Olympic team and started building the China Going Global team. The China Going Global team is exactly what the name says. It was helping Chinese big companies, the first one that were really starting to go overseas, to build a brand and build a market outside of China. So our first big client to do that was Haier. At one point, and because we were working for Qingdao Beer at the same time, at one point I was in Qingdao every Qingdao being the home town, headquarters of both Haier and Qingdao Beer. So I was there every 2 weeks, and we helped them build their international communication system. So looking at the strategy, the messaging, but also training the executives in international communication, international media relations, international crisis communications, because they had to understand when there was an issue with a product, a washing machine, for example, for hire in the US, how to respond to that. Just to give you one example of what we were doing for one client, which is Haier, we were at one point supporting them in 17 countries around the world. So it was actually a team of more than 30 people in 17 countries. Those included New Zealand, India, Pakistan, France, Germany, Italy, Spain, and then Canada, US, a couple of countries in South America. I remember that we had one monthly global call with all of that. Nobody understood anything because you had 17 different English accents on the call, and once you went from New Zealand to Pakistani accents, everybody was lost. But it was a fun thing, and we did that for a couple of years. And because we were working for Haier, which was one of the most high-profile companies going global, we started working for a couple others. Hanvan Technologies, for example, which is a Beijing-based e-readers and facial recognition company. We worked for Bank of China, we worked for China Mobile, and we built a team of, I forget, but probably about 10 people that were specialized in Beijing, that were specialized in helping Chinese companies going global, and were center of expertises pretty much all around the world with people that were specialized in helping Chinese companies in their own market, whether it's Europe or the US. So it was an interesting trend at the time. Not a lot of these companies were actually very successful. The problem being that most of these companies didn't really see the international market as being that important for them. China is still so big, they still have massive growth in China, that 95% of their resources and growth was in China. They were going global mostly because other companies were doing it, and they wanted to do it like them. Haier never really managed to build a huge brand. They were actually more famous outside of China 10 years ago than they are now.
Which one then do you analyze as successful? Which Chinese companies do you analyze successful overseas?
Lenovo is probably one of the most successful cases of companies overseas, and one of the rare ones, but they did that through acquisition of IBM and integrating IBM's global network. So they basically acquired their international position. Haier kind of tried to do the same thing, but wasn't really successful. They acquired a couple. They acquired GE's home appliance division 10 years ago, I think, but it's not something that you necessarily remember, whereas you remember Lenovo. Interestingly, Huawei was doing good overseas. They do have some issues as a company and image in a couple markets around the world, but they've been super successful in building products that the rest of the world wanted. Their mobile phone are just used all over the world. That's another discussion. But there aren't that many Chinese companies that are being successful overseas. One that we can mention right now is ByteDance with TikTok, the international version of Toutiao, which is massively successful outside of China. But they managed to build a product that was new outside of China, built on the success in China, which doesn't necessarily work outside, platforms being so different. Good for them. I think we'll see more. But we're not going to see a huge amount of Chinese companies being successful outside of China anytime soon, because they still have a massive home market.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Simon. Congratulations for everything you achieved, and thanks for your time. I know that you have a meeting at 9, so I don't want you to be late. I hope you enjoyed it.
It's been a pleasure. It's been fun. I look forward to listening to myself and seeing any comments on this. Of course, if anybody wants to ask me any questions, I don't know if you'll put some contact details next to your video somewhere, or link to my LinkedIn or something. I'd be happy to connect with anyone who wants to know more.
Thanks everyone for listening. Bye bye.